In our last video, we showed you how AI game development allows the assets created for one base character, Grandma Lara, to live in two completely different games, a visual novel and a horror platformer. We achieved this by using Makko's manifest system to eliminate file chaos. Now that you've seen what is possible, it's time to learn how we built the gameplay logic required to make these animations appear correctly in game. The first step in that process is foundational. How do we go from a static idea or a simple reference image to a fully implemented character with genre-specific dynamic animations our different games require? A character that looks good but can't move is still just a prop. It's an asset, not a player. What we are doing with these animations is bringing life and style to our characters that fit the worlds we are creating. This idea is expressed through key actions like running, jumping, and shooting in our horror platformer, or walking, talking, and gesturing in our visual novel. Today, we're going deep into Art Studio to build these genre-specific movesets tailored specifically for our fast-paced horror platformer and our storytelling visual novel. We're moving from structured asset configuration into the crucial layer of structured gameplay actions. Our primary goal here is to define the action layer. Following the correct workflow, we'll open up the base Grandma Lara character details page in Art Studio. This is the single source of truth where all of the animations for this character will live. The first step in our process is creating the individual animations that define the character's actions before we assemble them into the game-specific manifest we talked about in video 1. The foundational character action layer, which will dictate the movement, interaction, and expressiveness of the main characters in both the horror platformer and the visual novel projects, is planned to be constructed from a core set of 7 highly customized animations. These animations are essential for translating the character's state and intentions into visible on-screen action, providing the necessary fidelity for each game-specific genre requirements. For the horror platformer, 4 specific animations will be created: jump, run, idle, and shooter stance. For the visual novel, 3 animations will be developed: walking forward, talking gesturing, walking sideways. To start off, we're going to create a jump sprite animation, which is essential for the platformer genre. We start by clicking on create animation and describing the exact animation we want to create. We will name this running jump, and the prompt is side view running into a running jump. After a minute or two, Makko AI will give us a video showing the animation it created. The animation looks good, but we don't want to keep all of the parts of this animation in our game. That is where we start editing the actual frames of this animation to show you exactly what we want to keep and what we want to remove. In order to edit the frames, you must first extract them from the source video by clicking on the Extract Frames button here on the left side of the screen. Once the frames are extracted, you will see them on the right side of the screen next to Source Video. Then you can click on the Edit Frames in Animation Studio button on the top right. Here, we are able to select which frames we want to use, how they loop, and remove any unwanted frames. As you can see here, we removed about 35 frames in order to capture the exact moment we wanted for our game. This left us with 6 frames for this specific animation. Once you are satisfied with the loop you have, you can exit the studio and create a new sprite sheet. The animation name gets added to the name you already have for the base animation, so having default here would lead to the full name being Grandma Lara Running Jump Default. For this series, leaving all other options as default will work just fine, but in future series we will show you when and why you would edit these other options. These animations are being created using the same base character, but they are clearly intended for the platformer game and thus need a new manifest. In this step, we're creating the new assets we need for the platformer, and later we will use the manifest feature to selectively include only what is necessary for each game. This is the definition of asset hygiene in AI game development. You create all animations once and then attach them only to the specific game profile that requires them, keeping all other builds clean, efficient, and small. By adhering to this workflow, we become experts in asset separation in game dev and ensure our game's performance is never bogged down by unnecessary assets. Let's create the next animation our platformer will need: the run animation. A successful run animation for our game will require our character to look like she's running around holding a gun, since she will be shooting throughout most of our game. Let's create a new animation and call it Run. For the prompt, we will say side view, running forward with the right arm extended straight in front of the character at all times. The side view here is the most crucial part of the prompt, as it tells the AI what side of the character we want to see. The character in our horror platformer is always moving left and right, so a side view is necessary for most animations. You will see something similar come into play as well in the visual novel animations. We must ensure the animation sequence feels correct relative to the context we're using the animation in. In this case, Grandma is going to be played in a horror platformer. This requires animations that are punchy and responsive, as opposed to the deliberate, slower animations we use in the visual novel. If the animation feels incomplete, laggy, or out of place, the final gameplay experience will be floaty and disconnected. Imagine if Grandma was slowly walking across the platformer like she is in the visual novel. This would be game-breakingly disjointed from the core game experience focused on jumping, dodging, and defeating enemies rather than addressing the reader or player. This is where you test and retest the feel of the move, adjusting the frames and how they loop down to the individual level. You will know you have done it once you see an animation that loops perfectly and without a hitch. Just look at this running animation. You wouldn't be able to tell it was a loop unless you were looking at the frame count. And remember, this is not just an animation. This is defining the core of the character's movement and the foundational AI game development action layer for this specific game. We continue the same pattern for the idle and shooter stance animations. Create an animation, name and describe it, extract the frames, trim it down, and bake a sprite sheet. If you ever get an animation that you don't like or that doesn't match what you were looking for, try adding a different description or phrasing the desired behavior in a different way. Keep in mind that the incorrect animations could be used for another action in this game or a future one, so you shouldn't automatically delete something just because it can be used for this specific purpose. With the horror platformer animations ready, we can transition our focus and create the 3 essential character animations required for our visual novel project. This process, while similar in principle to the previous work, introduces a significant divergence in terms of visual presentation and the character orientation. The most notable and crucial change you will immediately observe is that unlike the side-scrolling perspective we adopted for the horror platformer, where characters face left or right, we need 2 of these 3 animations to be facing directly forward. This forward-facing perspective is a standard convention in visual novels, as it allows direct engagement and better displays character expressions during dialogue sequences. This dual requirement, 2 animations facing forward and 1 animation facing sideways, means we must pay close attention to the character's pivot points when setting up these new assets in Art Studio to ensure smooth transitions between the different perspective types. That is where the alignment tool will come in handy in the next video. Now that we have all the animations of our 2 games completed and a few extra for future reference, we can now create manifests and import them into each of our games, just like what you saw in the first video. Grandma can now move, but there is a problem. If your character scale is wrong or their anchor point is misplaced, the gameplay will still feel floaty, broken, and unpolished. With the horror platformer, the entire world is 32 by 32 pixel blocks, so if you don't scale your animations properly, they might not even render in game. The animations are only half the story. Just because they are done and put into manifest doesn't mean the job is finished. In our next video, we'll learn about scaling and alignment to ensure our character is properly positioned in both the visual novel and horror platformer environments. AI game development isn't just about generating art, it's about structuring actions intelligently. Use RStudio at Makko.ai today to build clean, genre-specific movesets for your next project.